Hey designers! In this tutorial, we are going to create an amazing game-style text animation in After Effects. This will be a very beginner-friendly tutorial, so if you are new to After Effects, you should find it easy to follow along. I'll begin by creating a new composition with a resolution of 1920 by 1080. Then, I'll create another composition and name it Text. In this text composition, I'll take the text tool and type my text. You can write any text you want. I'll go with Game Over. Choose any font that you like. Next, go to the More options. I'll make the font all caps. Now, increase the font size and reduce the spacing between the letters. Once that is done, align the text both vertically and horizontally within the composition. Now, go back to Composition 1 and drag and drop the text composition into it. Next, I'll create a new solid layer for the background and move it below the text composition. Then, select the text composition, go to Effects and Presets, and search for Drop Shadow. Apply the drop shadow effect to the text. Choose a different color for the drop shadow. You can pick any color you like. I'll go with a reddish tone. Increase the shadow distance slightly and set the opacity to 100%. Now, let's add a stroke around the text. Right-click on the text layer, go to Layer Styles, and select Stroke. Open the stroke options and change the stroke color. Increase the stroke size as needed. And once you're satisfied, close the Properties panel. Next, select the black solid layer. We'll now apply some effects to it. Go to Effects and Presets and search for Fractal Noise. Double-click on it to apply the effect. Change the fractal type to Basic and set the noise type to Block. Increase the contrast and brightness. Set the complexity to around 3 or 4. That should give us the look we need. Now, go back to Effects and Presets and search for Optics Compensation. Apply it to the solid layer. Optics compensation is used to create a slight bending effect, making the edges of the screen look curved. It helps give a more natural or 3D-like look to the background. After applying optics compensation, check the option called Reverse Lens Distortion. This will make the edges of the background bend outward, creating a subtle, expanding effect. Make sure the timeline indicator is on the first frame. Increase the field of view to 180. Now, click on the stopwatch next to field of view to create a keyframe. Move the timeline indicator a few frames forward and reduce the field of view slightly, setting it between 150 to 160. Now, let's preview the animation. This is how it looks so far. You can always modify the fractal noise settings whenever you feel it's needed. For now, I'll increase the contrast and brightness a little. Go to Effects and Presets and search for Tritone. Tritone in After Effects allows us to recolor an image using 3 color tones: highlights, midtones, and shadows. Let's change the highlight color to a bluish tone. Then, adjust the midtones and shadows to create a more balanced color scheme. Now, I'll go back to the text composition and add a stroke to the text. The white and mustard colors are blending too much, so I want to make the text stand out. I'll select the text layer, enable the stroke option, set the stroke color to black, and increase the stroke width to 2. Perfect. Now, let's preview again. Next, we want the animated noise pattern to keep changing over time. To do this, go to Evolution Options in Fractal Noise and click on the stopwatch next to Random Seed. Move the timeline indicator a few frames forward and increase the random seed value. Random seed in After Effects controls the variation of noise patterns. Changing its value makes the noise look different in each frame, creating an animated effect. If the animation is moving too fast, we can slow it down using the Posterize Time effect. Go to Effects and Presets and search for Posterize Time. Posterize Time in After Effects is used to control the number of frames per second for an effect or layer. It helps slow down fast-moving animations by reducing how often the frames update. Now, let's set the frame rate under Posterize Time to 11. This will make the animation play a bit slower. Let's preview the animation. You'll notice that it has become smoother and less fast-paced. Now, I'll adjust some settings a bit. If your settings already look fine, you don't need to change them. These are things you can experiment with based on your preference. Let's animate the text. Select the text composition and press R2. Bring up the rotation property. Rotate the text slightly. Press S to bring up the scale property. Click on the stopwatch next to scale to create a keyframe. Move the timeline indicator one frame forward by pressing Ctrl plus right arrow on the keyboard. Now, add a blank keyframe here. Move back to the first frame and increase the scale value significantly, making the text much larger. Now, let's preview. Select both keyframes and press F9. Also, move the entire text layer one frame forward in the timeline to refine the effect. The last step is to add a wiggle effect to make the animation more dynamic. First, create a new null object. Go to Effects and Presets, search for Slider Control, and apply it to the null object. We'll call it null1. Make the text layer parent to null1 by dragging the pick whip, the curly line tool, from the text layer to null1. Select the slider control we just added and press Ctrl plus D to duplicate it. We need 2 slider controls here. Next, select null1. Press P to bring up position. Type the wiggle parenthesis expression. Hold the pick whip and drag it to slider control 1. Then, type a comma. Next, hold the pick whip again and drag it to slider control 2. In the wiggle expression, the first value controls how fast the movement happens, and the second value controls how much the position moves. Now, the first value will be controlled by slider control 1, and the second value will be controlled by slider control 2. By adjusting these values, you can control the speed and intensity of the movement. Now, set the values for slider control 1 and slider control 2 as per your preference. Try experimenting with different values to see what works best for your animation. That's it for this text animation. There's always room for customization. If you don't like the font, you can easily change it. If the color isn't to your liking, go back and adjust it. You can modify the stroke color and size to match your style. Want to create variations? Go ahead and experiment with different settings to make the animation unique. If you're not happy with the background, select the solid layer, go to its effects and presets, and under fractal noise, modify the turbulence, brightness, and contrast to get different visual effects. You can also go to the text composition and tweak the colors of the text, strokes, and shadows to better suit your design. Once you're happy with the results, it's time to preview your final animation. If everything looks good, you're all set. If this tutorial was helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Ace Designs for more awesome content like this.